DDG, episode 144. My name is Dave Hunt, and I'm joined by Michael Swick.
How's it going, Dave? How's it going? We're a day later than usual, though I don't know when this will be released exactly. But part of the reason we did that is because, Gamescom. We wanted to hopefully get some good Gamescom news. Spoiler alert.
Tumbleweed-com?
Yeah, spoiler news. Kojima's got a podcast, so we have competition. That was probably the biggest thing coming out of Gamescom, though there was some stuff we'll talk about.
Yeah. So we are Digital Days Gaming. We are a weekly podcast that posts every Thursday, 6 a.m. Eastern Time on podcast services, on your mobile devices, computers, whatever, any of that stuff. If you're able to leave a review, that is super, super helpful. We've had some overseas reviews, but and we've got a lot of reviews in general, but it's just been a long time since we had any, at least in Americas. So if you're able to leave us a review, that is super helpful. I'm sure it moves us up algorithms that we don't fully understand. But anything you can do to help share the show and grow the community is always appreciated and helpful. You can find us digitaldaysgaming.com. You can join the Facebook group. You can join Discord. You can follow us on Twitter. All those are linked in the show notes. Teespring's account is there. Believe it or not, it is almost the end of August, so maybe you need a new hoodie soon, apparently. Although I spent the last 6 days outside for work, and I'm fried. So it's still very hot. But it is almost September, and football season starting, so that's always good. Check out some of that stuff on Teesprings. And like I said, everything else is in the show notes. We do stream on Twitch, twitch.tv/digitaldaysgaming. Come hang out, chat in the stream with us when we're live. Tentatively planning on streaming some Destiny this week with another raid race happening. Not that we're going to win the race, but it's always entertaining to see the group of people that I play with. I know a lot of you guys like, the core group of people that I play Destiny with, sometimes watching us do a little bit harder than average content. So we'll see how that goes. But you can also subscribe to us on Twitch. We are a Twitch affiliate, as well as you can use your Amazon Prime account to link with your Twitch and get Prime Gaming, and you can subscribe to us that way. Please just subscribe to some streamer if you have Amazon Prime. Just link it up. Check us if you would like. If not, make sure you give it to somebody. Don't let Amazon keep that money. So that's money that could go to any streamer that is an affiliate or a partner. So with that, we're going to jump into the news.
Yeah, this was a little bit of news that was pretty big last week. I was bothered because we had recorded last week, and then a day later in between our recording, the episode goes live.
I think when Angela was editing the episode, she's like, hey, and I'm like, oh.
Yeah. I was talking to other podcasters on Twitter who also experienced what we experienced of recording an episode and then big news drops. So we're catching up this week. Embracer Group has spent roughly $577 million on several different acquisitions. This includes Tripwire Interactive, the makers of Killing Floor, Limited Run Games, the seller of collector's editions and other assortments of things.
Ben Palmer has to write Embracer checks now.
Yeah. I've only bought a couple things from Limited Run Games, but we'll see how this affects them. Tuxedo Labs, which is an indie developer or indie studio that made Teardown, which was kind of making... It had some hype before it came out about a year or two ago. Geotech, Gaming Accessories, which is a name I haven't heard in a long time. I remember seeing them in our early E3 days, and then they just stopped showing up. So Geotech, Scenetrix, which is strictly like a karaoke company. So they make the videos and I believe some of the equipment you'll see if you go to a karaoke bar. And then the big one, Middle Earth Enterprises. So this is the non-book rights to Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, though there is some gray area on if this covers future literary works. But they weren't really that clear, but basically they own now the Lord of the Rings and Hobbit IP for whatever they want that doesn't involve the OG books. And then there's a mystery studio that they also acquired that work on PC and console games that they couldn't announce for, I believe they stated, commercial reasons. So I don't really know what that means. It might mean they're currently working on a game for another publisher, so they can't announce anything yet, but another studio is coming, though they did preface it's kind of in the mid-range price if you'd break down how much they paid for each of these companies, though they didn't reveal that figure. They just said we spent $577 million, and Lord of the Rings was the most expensive one. So we have to kind of figure stuff out from there. But Dave, Embracer is continuing to eat up studios. Initial thoughts on them just acquiring more and more stuff?
There's really nothing in here that I personally care about. You know, like I know you enjoyed Killing Floor. I'm not really a big collector of physical media, and I don't know. Like I never heard of Teardown. With you, I don't recall Geotech. I'm sure if I see something, it might spark my memory, but it doesn't, you know, come off the end of your tongue like Power A or anybody.
But it's definitely a name we've heard of, but it's been a while since we've heard from them.
Karaoke stuff, okay. I mean, this is them kind of branching out a little farther outside of just like console and PC video games. Like obviously they're doing, you know, software, hardware stuff for those places. I feel like those karaoke bars like print money.
They do
in terms of in terms of return on investment. Like you spend $30,000 to get, you know, individual rooms, soundproof rooms, karaoke monitors, all that stuff, and then you sell alcohol and let these people go in the room and sing, and you probably make your money back in 6 months.
Yeah, and most of that now, so you can have the latest music, is subscription based. So those places subscribe to it, and that's where this deal would come. It's basically like continuous money forever that they want.
And then, like, like, I don't like this. Lord of the Rings is something that exists. I've seen movies. My wife loves them. I enjoy watching them more for the story and the visual marvels that they have been. But I don't know if I would have any desire or care to play a Lord of the Rings game. Like, I didn't play any of the Middle-earth games or Shadow of Mordor games or nothing. I didn't play any of those. They look fantastic. They look fun, but that story world doesn't grab me.
Yeah, I think that what's big about the Middle-earth thing is it's not just video game rights. It's like everything.
Yeah, absolutely.
But which, to your point, is like they're diversifying, trying to get a little bit of everything.
Who did you think the studio is that they can't announce yet? I think it's Respawn, or not Respawn, the studio that did Control.
Remedy? I think no, but because they said
who's left?
I'm assuming because they included like Tuxedo Labs, who made an indie game. It's got to be like an indie studio because.
Yeah, but why wouldn't they say it then? Like, I mean, like, and they're talking about like there's a decent chunk of this money. Okay, we know that. I don't even like. What do you think? 50% of this went to Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, I would say so. It's hard to tell because the Lord of the Rings stuff, the money doesn't even make sense for Lord of the Rings. How much of a deal they got for it.
Yeah, so let's be assertive. Let's say 60%. So another 30% for this bigger studio and 10% for everybody else.
That's the thing that's kind of hard to tell is because they refuse to give. Because I don't even know how to quantify like the karaoke company. Like the least expensive companies that they acquired would be Teardown Studio and
I would argue it's
Limited
Limited Run because I was gonna say they don't make a game.
Yeah, if anything, it's just the thing with Limited Run is I don't know if you noticed, but like THQ Nordic puts out a lot of collector's editions, and you usually can get those collector's editions for like a year after the game releases. Yeah. So Limited Run probably just has like a better data.
Are you buying them for 50 or 60% of their social media driven? That people that follow Limited Run games and somebody sees them tweet and goes, "I want whatever they tweet." You know, like
they get that they get a name
the
that
clout.
The clout, and then also just like a supply line and just like data.
I just don't know who's left.
I don't either.
Who's left that's big enough that you have to say, "Hey, we did a thing, but we can't tell you what the thing is."
That's the problem. Is like I think it would have to be like an indie studio.
And then and inadvertently, what's going to happen is 2 weeks from now we're going to hear about it. Be like, oh yeah, I forgot about them. They make cool stuff.
To me in my head, I'm be like, you know what, Iron Galaxy you could probably get for like a pretty good deal, and because they're a port house for the most part. But maybe you can't announce it because Rumbleverse just released on the Epic Game Store as an exclusive there. That they're like, oh, let's not talk about this yet. Until that's done. But yeah, like Remedy I feel like would be in this pile of like acquisitions, and we don't know exactly how much Lord of the Rings are. I would feel like Remedy would probably ask for like the Insomniac amount, which is like, you know, 150 to 250.
Yeah, I get it. But I mean, what do they own?
Well, they just signed a deal with they're doing like three Control games.
What IP do they own?
Alan Wake Control.
They own Control?
Yes, they own Control,
Okay.
but I think 505 gets first rights to like anything
Okay.
that gets published.
Yeah.
And then they just signed a deal with Rockstar to remake the Max Payne games. So I feel like they're too
Right.
messy right now. I think
No, I mean that all makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
I'm sure we'll find out, and it's going to be not impressive.
The only other one that's lingering around right now, and I'm sure you've seen this a little bit because of like following Keighley in the Video Game Awards. The only other one that I could think of is Airship Syndicate.
Airship, is that the
And
studio name?
Yes,
What?
and they're the Darksider studio.
Oh, okay.
And then they are currently in making a MMO with the name's gonna escape me, but
the Warframe devs.
The Warframe devs, and that's like being announced at the Video Game Awards. So that might be like
That
could
fit.
be what's holding them up. And that's like, but I don't think you get Darksiders with them.
Well, no,
because
they
I believe
own
Darksiders is
THQ
owned by
Nordic,
THQ.
which Embracer owns. So that's what I'm saying.
That's right.
It might be a
Okay.
perfect
Yeah,
fit
yeah.
of like, hey, you
Yeah.
guys work on Darksiders. We own Darksiders under one of our
Yeah.
umbrellas.
I've seen a little bit of bits and pieces of what Airship Syndicate is working on, and if we're talking about a Darksider style game that's in an MMO, like a Darksider style combat looter, that might be enough to get me to pay attention.
It definitely would be. I mean, because
They've made other stuff too, like Battle Chasers, I think is what it's called.
I think so, yeah.
They Airship Syndicate's made like that crew has made some pretty good solid games, but that I got to interview, and his name's escaping me, but I got to interview the CEO or the guy that founded Airship. He's a huge obviously Darksiders fan. Like he's got war like tattooed on his arm.
Mm-hmm.
He was a super cool guy to interview and to talk to about. And again, one of those people that they go through so much emotions of interviews of just regular press people. When somebody interviews them that's like truly a fan of the game, they perk.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're like, oh, like okay, well, cool. We can have a real conversation. I'm not just gonna like go through the motions with you. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and that stuff was like really cool. So like they're kind of they've got a lot of chatter behind them right now, and maybe whatever their deal with the Warframe developer.
The names escape me, and it's pissing me off so much.
It's not. It's I can't think of. I mean, I want to guess right now. But that seems to be getting a lot of hype right now as well. Like there's a couple streamers that are paying attention to it.
Digital
like
Extremes is the publisher and developer.
Yeah.
Okay.
So. But yeah. Sure. This is just the inevitable where we are. I feel like it's kind of similar to the car industry, and I don't know enough about the car industry, but like I forget like Chrysler, Dodge, and Jeep are all owned by the same person, so like there's so many different things that are in the Pontiacs. We're like so many names that where people forget who's attached to who eventually over time, and this is just the consolidation, the current consolidation of the video game industry into something similar to like the Big 8 and Little 12. Like I don't even know anymore.
Yeah, the only thing that like I'm starting to hit that point with Embracer where and we could tie this in a little bit to what is causing these concerns for me this week is they haven't put out content yet, like to justify all their acquisitions. And Saints Row was supposed to be like their first like, hey, here's our AAA game, and that fucking thing looks like it's a thud. It'll probably sell well because it's Saints Row, but it's not giving me confidence in their ability to develop a AAA game.
I don't necessarily. I know you didn't put this on the agenda. I don't necessarily want to get deep into this conversation, but like, it's been a long time since you and I have both like done like a true written scored review. Yeah. Agreed. Yes. So. If you were reviewing Saints Row currently, like in your mindset, are you comparing it to other Saints Row games? Are you comparing it to current GTA games? Like I have such a hard time, and I've started to disconnect some, and I was never a great reviewer. Like I'm not gonna dispute that. I was a terrible writer, and reviewing things I felt like looking back on I wasn't very good at because I maybe I spent too much time in the moment of what I was doing, and it's like, okay, how does it currently make me feel? Am I currently having a good time? Am I currently enjoying it versus, well, the third game did this better than this one. Well, this did this better than that. Like, this isn't that.
For me, I try to do what you just said. I try to review the product that was in front of me, because one thing I always hated and I try to stay away from doing is basically being an armchair developer during a review. Like, in terms of like, well, what I would have done, anytime I see a review that they put their suggestions into the review, I'm like, that's not a review. That's something else. So I try and like look at the product itself. And in the case of this, there's, some pushback of like, oh, they made it too like woke or some weird shit going against it for like the story. But
I don't think that should be relevant in your review.
Yeah, the thing that I think is relevant though is the game is a buggy mess.
Okay,
that breaks your game.
I haven't read any of. I haven't read any of them.
I've
seen the scores. I've seen the numbers. I've seen the Metacritic. I've seen the chatter on Twitter. Like when it gets on, and again, I love my wife. When it gets on my wife's timeline, whether it's Facebook or Twitter, that's when I know that like there's a lot of good or bad hype.
Giant Bomb had to delay their review because it broke.
Okay,
12 hours into the game.
That's fine. That's relevant. But to say that, like I saw some headline of like it's just a bad GTA 5. It's not trying to be a GTA game.
Yeah, and if anything, compare it to Saints Row games. It's trying to be a Saints Row game, and it's not doing a good enough job with that. Okay. But at the same time, you have to just review what's in front of you. You can't, and that's a problem with like a lot of reviews that you can see where they're like, well, I like 3 or I like 2. It's like, but we're not talking about 3 or 2. We're talking about this game in front of you. And unfortunately for this game, it fails that pass too because it is buggy as hell.
I've just been seeing so much comparison in reviews, and even if it's like release date relevance, like, oh, like Elden Ring's not Horizon. Like it doesn't do Horizon good. Horizon doesn't do Elden Ring good. Or lately, the one I saw a lot of is Stray versus As Dusk Falls. Like, oh well, like Stray's better than They're two different genres.
Yeah,
like just because it's on one's on Game Pass and one's on PS Plus, like doesn't mean that they're competing against each other.
But for the most part, that's like Twitter and like social media posts, not necessarily like actual reviews that people are posting scores to. And that's a problem. And that's always been a problem where people just look at the Metacritic number and then they compare it to something else, whatever helps their argument. But in the case of Saints Row, that game sounds like it was broken, buggy, and probably needed more time to develop. And that's also now Embracer's first big like, hey, we're releasing a thing. And they failed at that. Especially, it's been a long time since Agents of Mayhem.
If it's not a step in the right direction of evolving your Saints Row franchise, that's a problem. If it's people are saying that it's not the next GTA, it's not the next Fortnite, it's not the next Destiny, it's not the next Overwatch, like you can't do that.
You definitely can't, and I feel like for the most part that's not in people's reviews, that's in people's response to reviews. And that's
which is really mainly what I see. Like I said, I haven't seen a lot of headlines. I've seen quote tweets and chatter. And
that's the problem is like you'll just have like the fanboys. And there's fanboys for everything. So, you'll get the GTA fanboys who are like, always hated Saints Row. And then you'll have the Saints Row fanboys who just hate what this is. Regardless of it being buggy, they just hate that it exists. And that's where things get weird. But in the case of this specific game, I've been listening to a lot of podcasts and reading a lot of reviews about it because I was going to pick it up. Even though I wasn't excited, because I've been talking about the last couple weeks of like, I'm not excited for this. But reading those reviews and having outlets be like, it broke, so I couldn't review it.
I'm kind of starting to feel the same way about Gotham Knights. The more they show, the less I want.
Yeah, I didn't even include. I didn't even look at the trailer from opening night.
I don't want to see anything else anymore. I just want to play a Batman beat 'em up game. Like that's. I don't stop.
Yeah.
If it turns out that it's bad at the end of it, then okay, whatever. Or I didn't enjoy it as much. Like whatever. Like Last of Us comes out like in 2 weeks.
Yeah, and I played that 10 years ago, and I'm like, I don't want to see any more of it. I just want to replay it again.
Yeah, I didn't mean to derail that. I'm sorry.
So, no, it's fine. It's fine.
So now, speaking of questionable decisions, again from Embracer.
So Embracer has switched development of Knights of the Old Republic, KOTOR, over from Aspire to Saber Interactive. I keep forgetting that KOTOR is KOTOR in our notes. But yeah, so Saber Interactive has now taken over development of it. Reports claim that PlayStation and Lucas Films were not happy with where the game was at the time, so that led to Embracer Group just straight up firing multiple people in charge of that project, and now Embracer has moved development over to Saber Interactive, and they are saying they're not expecting any delays with the game's release, but there was no release date to begin with, so that is...
What has Saber Interactive made recently?
So Saber Interactive, they're kind of also like a port house for the most part. They did
like if you like their wiki is just like I don't see like IPs or games. Hang on here, like list of games. Will Rock, Time Shift, Battle, Los Angeles, Halo Combat Evolved Anniversary, Intervention, God Mode. Is this? Am I looking at? No, I'm looking at this oldest. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So they
SnowRunner, Crisis. Okay, Crisis Remastered, Halo. They worked on Halo, WWE 2K Battle. What the heck are these people doing?
Yeah, they worked on like the DLC for World. They did World War Z. They did the DLC for that as well. I believe Deliverance Kingdom Come.
They're the epitome of an artillery studio. What gives you any faith that they can fix KOTOR?
That's the thing, is like, hopefully this makes Sony and Lucas happy. I doubt it will, because you're moving the game from one studio that was mostly a port house. I know that's a very disrespectful way of saying it, but like an artillery studio.
Artillery studio sounds more sexy.
Yeah, so you're moving it from one of those studios to another one of those studios and expecting better results. And Saints Row just kind of, flopped. We'll see what the sales figures say. And then now Star Wars is going to be your biggest project, and it doesn't instill confidence.
They made Shaq Fu.
Oh yes, the Shaq Fu that is always like $4.99 during Black Friday.
So they've done a lot of stuff with 2K, like
yes,
NBA 2K Battlegrounds.
Yeah,
or Playgrounds. I'm sorry, not Battlegrounds. And they've done some work on yeah. So okay, I don't know. I mean, this is another one of the I feel like, do we need another Star Wars game? But
this is and especially when we're talking about this is a remake of a beloved Star Wars game.
Yeah, they're screwed either way. This is a no-win situation for anybody.
This definitely feels like a publisher that basically, it sounds kind of like, even Embracer owns Crystal Dynamics now. It sounds like what Square Enix did, where they bit off more they can chew by getting the Avengers license, and then they're like, Crystal Dynamics.
And I love it. We're not expecting any delays, but there wasn't a release date to begin with. So since we didn't date it, we can't delay it.
Yeah, so
which is my philosophy.
Yeah, so. We're on target, so it's fine. We didn't tell you when it was coming. I don't know what this means. This is
the only positive, I guess, from this is what I saw when I heard a lot about the I'm probably gonna say the studio wrong, but Aspire.
Yeah, Aspire.
Aspire, that they were struggling. People were very concerned that this was gonna die.
Yeah, basically all their work would be thrown out, which is probably still going to be thrown out, because you just
right. But I think at this point in time, the player that was excited for the remake was more concerned that they weren't going to get their remake, and that's the part that sucks. But now they will get their remake. It looks like
we just don't know what state it's going to be in or when.
It might be 2028, but you're going to get it.
Yeah. We'll see what happens with this, but this is showing you Embracer, they're eating up a lot of studios. They have a lot of IP, but they haven't been able to put a product out. So there's some concern for the future of some of their projects. But let's go on to our next story. PlayStation is making more movies or TV shows potentially. So Deadline is reporting Gravity Rush movie is in development with the director and writer already attached. No word on if it's going to be animated or if it's going to be with people in it.
It has to be animated.
I hope it's animated. Especially
I want the same art style.
Yeah, you want the same art style. Especially there was an anime intro already for the game.
Yeah.
The Overture. It has to be, especially Sony owns, I think, Funimation and Crunchyroll. So you already have your anime services that you can put it on. I'm hoping for that, but they have a director, writer already attached. No clue on what's going to happen there. This is still PlayStation just kind of throwing everything out there and seeing what sticks, especially after the Uncharted movie was surprisingly successful despite being in development hell for several years. And then the weirdest thing that's going to get a movie, PlayStation is developing a Days Gone film, and they already
You
have...
can't get a sequel, but you can get a movie.
I don't understand. So, Sam Hugan is being picked to play the lead role.
Help me out. Who is that?
He is in like the Outlander TV show and something else. So something I don't think you've seen. I don't think I've seen either.
Okay.
But he's picked to play the character right now, or he's at least negotiating, which means they are far along in this if they're already like picking an actor.
So this last sentence and this next bullet point, I want you to say like the sentence of Sam Hugan and then like your last bullet point and then I want to talk about my concern.
Okay, and then writer Sheldon Turner is penning the script. So
okay, so you believe that they're in far negotiations with Sam Hagen, correct?
If Deadline was able to say like there's an actor attached, as opposed to Gravity Rush where it's like we have a writer director, this one is like we got an actor.
How do you feel about a movie picking the protagonist as the actor that's going to play the protagonist before there's even a script written?
That is the thing. It happens with movies.
Am I wrong?
No. It definitely is like a thing.
That's like hiring a head coach before you hire a general manager.
Yeah, like movies used to sign actors to like you have a 10-picture deal with Paramount, and then they would like plug you into like different movies as you went.
Yeah.
But I feel like we've kind of gone away from that. That was definitely something in like the 70s and before, before the 70s.
It was happening with Marvel. Mm-hmm. They were signing Robert Downing was signing a huge what was the rumor, like a 10-movie deal to do Iron Man, and and then Scarlett Johansson's getting screwed by it, by her multiple movie. Am I saying, is that who that is? The Black Widow actress. Yeah, she was getting screwed by her deal because of the not getting as much of the she was stuck in, she couldn't renegotiate her Black Widow movie deal because it was part of her original Marvel deal.
Yeah.
And so, and then she had no control of it going to a streaming service or not, whatever. But it's just so weird to sit there and say this is the focal point of my movie. Now make my script around my focal point, which is what they're asking them to do.
Yeah, I'm assuming that means like the studio really likes the actor, and they're just like, hey, we're gonna mark you down for this film, and then they're just hoping it comes together. But there's a chance you tell this actor like clear your schedule in a year because we're going to start filming or something, and then something happens with the script. They do have a good script writer, the person who wrote X-Men First Class, Up in the Air, and a couple other movies. But who knows what the timeline is, and who knows if the studio's even going to be in love with that actor in 2 or 3 years when it's time to make the movie.
Because everything
it's a
we've
weird
seen,
situation.
Yeah, everything we've seen about some of the Last of Us trailers and stuff like that, like people like he sounds like Joel, and there's been some positivity I've seen around that on social media, and I just worry like is there any concern to you that like Gravity Rush and Days Gone just don't carry the clout? Like I know we God of War is already being talked about, and
Horizon's
Uncharted already made one,
and
so I mean I know a lot of it's already happening or supposedly happening, and this is probably just farther down the line. I would, like you said, I would expect this Gravity Rush thing to go right to one of their anime services. Maybe
if it's animated,
maybe you see it on a Hulu or a Netflix. I don't see a Gravity Rush movie going to theaters.
It depends. If it's live action, I can see it because it's a cool concept. It could be like,
and I also don't
see
a Days Gone going to theaters. Like I don't know if they're going to be able to. And I hate to say it, like Mark Wahlberg helped the Uncharted movie. It didn't need much help, but it was a marquee name.
Yeah.
I want to see the new Wahlberg movie.
And for Days Gone, it's a franchise.
And Toby, or I'm going to say his name wrong. Tom Holland. I almost called him Tobey Maguire.
And for when we're talking about like I think Gravity Rush would be fine. Like they're even
I don't know who Sam Hagen is. Like I don't.
Yeah, and there's no script, but also specifically talking about Days Gone. PlayStation basically said like there's no future in this franchise, and then for Sony Pictures to be like yes there is. The studio's already working on a new thing. They lost the creative director for the game. They actually, I think it's the gameplay director, actually came out and said this is the wrong actor. You should use the actor we used in the game. He's a professional actor, and he looks like Deacon St. John.
Yeah.
So you then have basically the leader of like the community around this game being like, I don't like this choice. So you have a lot of strikes going against you to where it's like...
I feel like, again, comparing it to Uncharted is not fair, but... You know, like, okay, nobody's ever played the Uncharted video games and they watch the movie. Like, hey, that was really cool. Like, yeah, you should go back and play the games. There's really more depth to it, and you'll get a better understanding of the stuff that happened in the movie. And then also, I'm a huge Uncharted fan. I played all 4 of the games, or all 5 of the games, or whatever, and I enjoyed the movie, which is what I was in. So, like, but I don't think that anybody's going to go and see a Days Gone movie and then go buy the game.
And if they do, like, it's an okay game. You know, like, it's not a bad game. It's not a great game. It's okay. It's good. So I don't know what you do with that. And then if you, like, Google it, you'll just see, like, all those...
The development hell of no sequel for it.
Yeah.
And the same goes for Gravity Rush. 2 fantastic games. Fantastic games. Must play. Like, if you haven't played them, play them. Like, 100%. But, again, I would I would probably give the television show or the movie a chance because I enjoyed the game. If I don't know anything about the game, I don't know if I'm just going to watch it.
Yeah, and there is at least talk, like, I know the creator of Gravity Rush was like, I want to make a 3rd game, so then this new story comes out, and it's like, hey, maybe you'll get a chance, especially because Gravity Rushes aren't big games, but, like, Days Gone, they already were like, we don't have the budget to do a Days Gone 2, It's not worth it, but PlayStation might be like, you know, we have a budget for Gravity Rush 3, and we can see something.
That'd be great.
But for Days Gone, that's off the table, it feels like.
If the show helps progress the game possibility, that would be great. Yes, Josh, I'm aware I need to wake up. I have been outside all day for the last 5 days in 90-degree heat. Michael and I decided at the last minute not to record yesterday because we both were going to be like dump trucks. So, all right. So, PSVR 2 is being teased for early 2023, right?
Yeah, so Sony basically just made a social media announcement that was like coming soon, or like coming early 2023. And some analysts came out and said, like, yes, all their data is saying Q1 2023. And it sounds like mass production will start soon, and they're expecting PlayStation to have like maybe like 1.5 million units in the first year that it's available, which sounds about right for like the VR headset. Like, that doesn't mean...
sounds like a very high attach rate to me.
Well, no, that's just how many they plan to make. Not sold.
It's going to be easier to get a VR 2 than it is going to be a PS5.
You think that, but them fucking bots.
I know.
Like, the bots will buy them, even though there won't be, like, the demand for them, and then they'll just sit on them forever. But yeah, so PSVR 2 coming early 2023. So I don't know. I know they need to push this out. I just don't know if the install base is going to be quite there to adapt it, and I just don't trust, like, the chip shortage. It's going to be another machine that people are struggling to buy.
They can't release PS5 only games. Why are you releasing the hardware?
Sony did say they would have maybe like 20 games for the launch year of PSVR, which still doesn't sound like a lot.
For the launch year? So 2 a month?
Yes, yeah. Which, well, like, we'll see what...
1.75 a month?
Yeah, it's them and partners, but I don't know exactly if that's going to be the case. And you're not going to have...
I'm sorry, No Man's Sky in VR doesn't count as a game. Not for me, it doesn't count as a game. It does for Sony, though. I get it, but it's not going to make, like...
Especially it's already in PSVR, or I think...
Right, yeah.
So it's just it's just better, but if you want better, like...
VRR?
Well, no, if you want better, like, it's...
I know.
PC VR, it's already there for you. I hope this is true, but I have doubts that they'll be able to get that many ready for early 2023, and if there's going to be enough content for it. But at least that means they're getting ready. We'll hear more. I'm guessing now we'll probably get like a push for like the Game Awards. Maybe we'll see some actual footage of some of the other games that they haven't talked about yet, and we'll just see what they have for us. PlayStation 5s have been more available. Like when PlayStation Direct puts them out, like they're not selling out instantly. There was I think like 2 weeks ago,
Wario's not tweeting 15 minutes until pain anymore.
It's basically, I think there was a time where like it was up on PlayStation Direct for a good like 6 hours.
Yeah,
where you
I
could
got
get
some
one.
alert the other day that it was going to be on Amazon for Prime members first. Like, so there's more things that if it's getting to the point where Amazon or like you said, PS Direct is sitting there saying, "Hey, 3 p.m." and then 2 or 3 hours go, "Hey, there's still units available." Like it's not getting, the bots aren't eating it like you mentioned. So
Yeah, which is a good sign that we might be finally getting past this stuff. But the fact that like Sony is now just getting to the point where it's like, hey, PS5s are like mostly available. Let's push out another set of hardware and hopefully it's available for people. We'll find out. We're probably due for like a PlayStation something, like a PlayStation State of Play. I was going to say PlayStation Direct because that's where my mind is right now. A State of Play. Maybe we'll get something soon. Like, do you think we're due for a State of Play like within the next? Like,
yeah, historically, haven't they done September historically? Like the last
I think
couple
so.
Years?
I feel like that's true. So hopefully we'll get something early next month, and they'll talk more PSVR. Maybe talk a little bit about like the holiday, though. I think that's already pretty much set with Last of Us in 2 weeks or a week. I forget exactly when the last.
September 2nd. Yeah.
So like next week, and then
a week from Friday,
and then God of War is in November. So I think they're pretty much set for the holiday, but we don't know what like the first half of next year looks like. And Sony really likes to have like something out by March, April.
I'd rather them focus on PS5 games than to push this out early with a lackluster lineup.
Same, or they might have to acquire some more studios at that point, just to...
Yeah, but even so, you're not getting VR. If you acquire a studio in September, October, November, you're not getting a VR exclusive game in February or March from them.
Unless they already have it in development and Sony looks at it and is like, we like that so much, we want to keep it. And, keep it for ourselves. Unlikely, but it's something that they're going to have to consider doing since all their big studios have, like, recently released games or are about to release a big game.
I just feel like that they're putting a Q1 window on it, and it's not going to be in Q1. Like, why say anything? Just say 2023. Why say Q1?
Well, the analysts are saying Q1, PlayStation's saying early 2023. So, like, why say early? Because early means, to me, the first 6 months of 2023. And it sounds...
But that's... The Q1 for Sony is, what, March, April, May?
Mm-hmm. So it kind of lines up with what the analysts are saying.
Yeah.
And I feel like PSVR 2 will probably have a better chance as a holiday thing for people, and then you can also build up the PS5 install base. Something along those lines.
Too soon.
Too soon. It feels like too soon.
Too soon, not enough direct Sony support for the VR one.
Before, if a pandemic never happened, this would be perfect timing. But everything's just pushed back a little bit too much for me to be fully on board with it.
I don't. A $400 peripheral like that.
I probably should flip mine before the price on those tanked, just so I can justify in my head getting another headset. But let's move on to Gamescom, which I teased earlier. So Jeff Keighley did opening night live. I forget how European that event feels, but it's so weird how that like presentation goes. Jeff Keighley was there, obviously, but there's also like awards being given out for stuff that I guess was being demoed at the event, but there was some other awards. It seemed like it was for the year.
Gamescom is like the most populated public gaming event in the world.
Yes, yeah, it is. It is definitely that. They have. It's basically like the video game San Diego Comic-Con, where there's a bunch of stuff going on over there. It almost feels bigger than E3 in terms of like just booth presence, because there's like a lot of crazy stuff happening on the floor. But Jeff Keighley did his opening night live. This basically is the end of Summer Game Fest. I think that's usually how it looks like in the calendar, though I'm sure Jeff Keighley will expand that because we have a Marvel showcase and a Ubisoft Forward in early September, I think. But
forgot about those.
Yeah, those are first week, second week of September. Not a lot was here. Lies of P got a new trailer that's coming in 2023. This game is making the rounds because it looks stylish, but it has the Dark Souls from Software kind of feel. But you play as Pinocchio and you're destroying Geppetto's creatures. Looks pretty cool. It was a more cinematic trailer with a little bit of gameplay at the end, though I believe people are seeing the game and playing the game currently in Germany, so we'll probably get some footage from that soon enough, like from official channels, hopefully. New Tales of the Borderland, or Tales from the Borderland 2, I forget exactly how they're phrasing it, is coming out.
A Telltale game?
I don't know who's really developing it, because Telltale was
it's an episodic game, right?
I think it's just one whole chunk, from what I can gather. But that's coming soon. It's October 21st, so it's good that they're just, like, announcing... I think they announced it beforehand, but they're like, hey, here's gameplay, and it's coming out in, like, 2 months. So that's coming out. PlayStation was there, and they showed the PlayStation DualSense Edge, which is their Elite Pro controller.
It looks cool.
It looks cool. I don't know if I
don't know
need
how
it.
much it costs, but it looks cool.
Yeah, that's where I'm kind of at, where I'm just like,
Comparative to Scuff and everybody else right now, it's probably going to be $300 to $350.
Probably, like, you'd want to line it up with the Elite. The Elite's like, what, $175, $200 on a good day?
Yeah, I'd have to see. But I think it's like the MSRP of that is like $250 or $275, right?
Something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is coming. It looks cool. I forget which one I have. I have like
You have an Astro one.
An Astro one that only works on a PS4. I really liked it, but I never used any of the paddles or anything like that. I just liked the way it felt and being able to, swap
with as
parts
much shooters I play, I can't use paddles either. I can't get that muscle memory or dexterity going.
Yeah, it feels too foreign to me. This definitely looks pretty sleek, but I probably just wouldn't use it for the intended purposes, though it does have swappable parts, so that's pretty cool. I don't know if I'll pick it up, but I liked it. And PlayStation, I was kind of bummed that this was like the announcement from PlayStation at Gamescom.
Yeah, you can't offset the analog stick, so I'm not getting it. I'm kidding.
I mean, it would have been nice. I mean, they did that for that the Backbone thing. Those have the offset sticks, but I guess you're not doing that here. This was spoiled for me a couple weeks ago because someone dropped that on a podcast, but there was no other follow-up on it. But we got the trailer for Killer Clowns from Outer Space, the game. So this is from... They said specifically the director of the Friday the 13th game and not, like, the studio. So I'm guessing this might be a different studio. But it's a 3v7 PvP game. So people are playing humans, people are playing clowns. Looks pretty good. Killer Clowns from Outer Space was a movie that scared the shit out of me as a kid. It made me, like, not like cotton candy for a long time. I'm talking about, like, little kid.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I'll be able to play this game, even though I've seen the movie since that.
I don't have any desire to play a game with clowns. Like, I don't really even have a problem with clowns. I don't want to play a video game that has clowns in it.
I know my friends are going to be like, we're getting this, and then I will probably play it, and it will fucking scare me more than it needs to. But definitely, the Friday the 13th games have a really big audience.
Absolutely.
Dead to... What is the actual one that everyone plays? But the Evil Dead game, these are huge. Like, where they get, like, a movie bad guy, and you have to run away from them, are, like, a new thing. It's like its own genre on Twitch, basically. So I'm sure this will be successful.
Yeah, a game like this screams, like, Twitch drops or Twitch integration to mess with the people. Like this style of game just screams that from an interactive standpoint.
Mm-hmm. And it's exactly what it's going to be. I wasn't expecting it to look as good as it does, but it also is literally just one of those games that we've seen already, but it's got the killer clowns in it, as opposed to Freddy or Jason or all the other ones. I think there's a Texas Chainsaw Massacre game that got a trailer at this too. Mm-hmm. So this fits right in from there. And then the biggest announcement, though it leaked several hours before, which I would love to know, like, what goes through Jeff Keighley's head a couple hours before he organizes these, like a couple hours before these shows go live and everything leaks. Like, it happens to him every time.
Big announcements leak. Like, his big, cool, like, I'm gonna, like, control the internet for like 90-second things. Like, always leak.
It always does, and it makes sense because there's so many people that are involved. But like, do you think he cares at this point? Because it just happens. Sometimes it looks like he's bothered.
Do you think he does it so that more people watch Gamescom? Like more people watch it to see if it's there?
I mean, it'll keep it trending longer, but like, yeah, I would imagine.
I don't know. I don't care about this game.
I would have cared about it 8 years ago. The game we're talking about, Dead Island 2, was re-revealed. We got a cinematic trailer, and then we got some gameplay as well. It's coming out February 23rd. It's been 8 years since the game was first announced.
This game's not coming out February 3rd.
I mean, you know what? Embracer says it's going to happen February 3rd.
Embracer also said that KOTOR doesn't have any expected delays because it doesn't have a date.
We'll see what happens. So Dam Buster is working on the game now. I don't even remember. So it was the original developers who ended up going to make Dying Light. I think they were the studio that was announced originally, but when they left, they made Dying Light, and then it went to Jaeger, and then it disappeared, and then it went to another studio, and then it went to Dam Buster. So apparently it's been in development the last 3 to 4 years, which is funny to me because, like, it was actually technically in development 8 years ago if you follow all the studios that like have touched this. But yeah, it looks like Dead Island. There's not much to say. Like it's Dead Island, takes place in LA, which isn't an island, but fuck it, that was already announced before, so they were like boxed into that corner anyways. And
yeah, because people are going to be mad 7 years later that you changed the location of the game.
Yeah, or change the name and then just like, yeah, we just have a zombie game. So this feels like,
I mean, the name Dead Island carries more clout than a new zombie IP, like 100%.
But like, I almost feel like at this point you probably would have been better off because, like,
you'd be better off announcing a Dead Island remake at this point in time and then bring 2 out.
Well, technically,
stamina you get from
they did that like 4 years ago. So they're dead.
Yeah, where is it? Yeah,
it did come out on PS4, but I don't know. I feel like it's too late, and I would have been fine if Dead Island 2 just was vaporware and never came out. I don't know about you. Like I would have been okay.
Sure.
Like I don't. My friends...
You played the first one,
Yeah,
right?
I liked it. Yeah, what voodoo do you do is like one of the stupidest fucking lines I've ever heard, but it's fucking hilarious.
Do you have a tangible desire for a sequel now, 9 years later?
No, and there was probably like a 2-3 year window where I was like super into the idea of Dead Island 2, but then Dying Light came out. Yeah. And it was like, cool, this is the evolution of that.
This kind of circles back to what we were talking about. So now when this game does come out, if it does come out in February, they're going to compare it to Dying Light. They're not going to compare it to Dead Island 1.
Yes.
They're not going to say, hey, this is a progression of the first game because it's been 9 years or however long it is. They're going to be like, this is not a zombie game in 2023. This is a terrible 2015 zombie game. Because that's what it was supposed to be.
No, and that's like the problem that Saints Row had, where people played it and are like, oh, this open world game feels like it's 4 or 5 years out of date. It's like, because that was the last time they made an open world game, the studio. And you're going to end up with this where it's just like, cool, this feels like a sequel to Dead Island, but 8 years too late. And I don't know. Maybe it's going to be fantastic. I mean, co-op games always have a better chance of succeeding because it's co-op. And Dying Light 2 got kind of buried a little bit because of when it released, because it was like Horizon and Elden Ring came out all within, like, I think they sandwiched Dying Light 2.
Yeah.
Maybe there's an opportunity here.
Well, that went into like an 18-month spiral too, didn't it?
Well, that was like 3 years of like development hell where they were like, no, the game's fine, and then they delayed it, and they're like, no, it's fine, and they delayed it.
Yeah.
Dead Island, like I'm sure there's people that are excited for Dead Island 2, but like my friends and me played the hell out of Dead Island 1 when it came out, and none of us were excited for this.
I just think when you're, like, as an example, when you're 16 years old playing the first game and then you're going to be 24, 25 playing the second game, like, you're a different person. It's too long.
It's too long, and even though it contradicts what we talked about of, like, review the thing in front of you, this is a sequel. So you're going to have to look at like the previous thing. And then also the studio that made the first one left and did their own zombie co-op game.
Yeah.
So you're going to end up having to compare it to Dying Light. And then if you're going to compare it to Dying Light, you're going to compare it to other co-op zombie games. And then you're going to be like, well, Back 4 Blood came out a couple years ago and it was good, but didn't set the world on fire. So like it's too late. Like this feels way too late. And I don't think anyone would have been upset if they just didn't revive Dead Island.
Right.
So.
All right. So we are going to keep this show a little bit slightly shorter than normal. So we did not ask for any questions, and we're actually going to skip what we're playing and watching. The main reason that we're going to skip what we're playing and watching is because I haven't played anything. And I don't think Michael's had a chance to play anything. We both had some...
Just Dante's Inferno. I'm playing Dante's Inferno.
Yeah. Which I need to do.
Yes, you do need to play it like before the end of this weekend.
Yes. Sure. Saturday. But we also wanted to focus on Gamescom. And again, I'm just like... If you want to be upset with anybody or whatever, blame me. I'm physically just worn down. So I've been working at... I'm dropping major frames.
Yeah, I noticed that.
Yeah, I'm working at the University of Michigan, the store closest to the University of Michigan for a move-in, and I've been literally outside for like the last 6 days, 8 o'clock to 6 o'clock or more, 8 o'clock to 7 p.m., outside cooking in the sun and helping people load up their cars for dorm rooms. So most of the people from out of state. So it's just been physically exhausting, and it's an hour drive each way for me to go to that store every day. So that's where we're at with that. So apologies. Like I said, I'll be playing a little bit of Destiny on Friday, and I'll be playing some Dante's Inferno. So we can talk about that a little bit on the show and then tease the Patreon episode for it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing if you can play more than 2 hours of Dante's Inferno. Because I forgot.
I saw you tweet something about it, and I was like, oh boy.
You know, when I fought the first batch of unbaptized babies, I was like, I forgot about this. That game's fucking wild.
That's all fine. I mean, if I'm having fun, I don't really care. Like, if it's fun.
Yeah,
so we'll have to see. If you get a text message from me at like 9 o'clock on a Saturday night that says, yeah, buddy, I'm done, that might be...
Well, when you fight in a lust tornado...
We can still maybe have a very interesting Patreon conversation about why I can't play it.
Oh, we will, yeah. I think... I feel like the lust tornado is probably when you're going to tap out and be like, I can't do any more of this. And no, I'm not joking. That is literally something in the game.
So, we're right at like an hour. So a little over, a little under. I don't even know anymore. I can't tell. I don't know what day it is really. So, but that is going to be our show this week. So, again, please send us questions whenever you have a chance. She's like, I can tell by Michael's face you're not going to be okay. Please send us your questions. Put them on the Facebook group, put them in Discord, tweet at us using hashtag AskDigitalDays. And I hope everyone has a great week, and we will try to get into a little bit more of a routine normalness as we get into September, as like my kids go back to school and my wife goes back to work, thank God. Et cetera. But just to get us more into like a normalcy of a routine of where I don't have CEOs coming to my store and then leaving, and then I'm leaving my store for 2 weeks to do something else for everybody else. So I hope everyone has a great week and keep moving forward.
Dude, this fucking game is crazy. We'll talk about it on Patreon. Don't be a dick. See ya.